speaking of America, recently watched the movie Vice, starring Christian Bale by 𝗵𝗵cie.
Which just, did makeup, old person prosthetic makeup, just all of a sudden make a jump? Or was there partially CGI? Like, all the makeup of, Christian Bale, like, I really had to, like, look at, is that him?
Yeah, yeah.
And that, like,
it's about Vice President Dick Cheney.
Okay, and spoilers, we don't deal with...
Yeah.
If you don't know the movie, go out and watch it.
Yeah, and it's not a spoiler because it's recent history.
Yeah.
So
it should not be a spoiler.
Everything that we're going to talk about is true.
Real.
As far as we can know the truth.
Depending on what you believe.
Yeah. But yeah, the prosthetics and the makeup were amazing.
Yeah, I was really, because we all know Christian Bale, blah blah blah. He gets skinny, he gets fat, whatever.
Yeah, and that's such a Oscar bit of like, oh, they completely transform themselves, but it isn't just like, it didn't just look like a fat suit.
No, I really thought it was a different guy.
Yeah, it looked really good. But what I appreciated too, like he looked close enough to Cheney, but if you like looked around his mouth, like, it's still Christian Bale.
Well, sometimes when he was doing an old man voice, it came out like Batman.
Yeah.
I'm Dick Cheney Batman.
But I did like that they made, like, a gesture to making the actors look like the real-world figures they were playing, but didn't go nuts with it.
Right.
Like, Tyler Perry did not look like Colin Powell.
Right.
And I don't actually know what Donald Rumsfeld looks like, but I don't think... I think Steve Carell had the glasses, and that was it.
Well, what he did was he did that lip thing. Donald Rumsfeld has this... He does this... Which just looked like Michael Scarn going like, I don't want to... But yeah, so that also aside.
Yeah. Well, not quite, because okay, so biopics in general. You and I, maybe for different reasons, but both don't generally enjoy them. Mm-hmm. What made me want to watch this one, because you said you were surprised I had even picked it to watch. Hearing 𝗵𝗵cie talk about it, what I think is boring about biopics is that they are often presented as like a sterile, objective history lesson on this person's life. Whereas in any piece of text, there's going to be authorial intervention, because that's who, that's how art works. Yeah. But I think there's this pretense, like you were saying, the Queen. I keep saying that and thinking the Queen.
The Queen
Freddie Mercury biopic is like a paint by numbers, like, here's the sanitized version of this guy's life.
Right. Which you didn't watch, and I only watched part of it because I couldn't stand it anymore.
But like, it feels like when a band covers another band's song exact to the beat, then like, why bother?
Right.
And I think this is a Borges quote, but that like a map that corresponds 1-to-1 exactly with the territory it's covering is so detailed as to be useless as a representation of the original thing. Mm-hmm. That like, if you want to represent something, you are picking and choosing the information you're sharing.
Right.
And so what I liked about Vice was that it acknowledged itself as a film, and like maybe you'd think these are, I liked them, but I could see the argument that they were a little too cutesy, of like these postmodern choices of like conspicuously referring to itself as a film.
Right.
But yeah, I felt like there was a lot more artistry involved and that the film only ever claimed to be representing a point of view. It was not vying for like absolute authority of like, you're watching this film and I have the only truth.
There was a bit of tongue-in-cheekness that it felt like it was referring to Fahrenheit 9/11 or something like that. So it had like these jump cuts that are stylistically
even have
into
an unreliable narrator who announces himself as such and does not actually tell you who he is until the end of the film. And so he's constantly, McKay as a filmmaker is constantly making you aware that this is a person telling you a story, even though it's based on facts that you could look up that did happen, or if you lived through them and remember that they all fooled us into thinking Iraq had weapons of mass destruction.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the part for me that it just came off like, it's not that politics in general that I'm what happened, you believe it, you don't believe it, that aside, like, I have my side, and it's on the side of the same movie, so I'm kind of like just watching, like, especially if you go back to, like, I mean, I don't know anything about his college years or whatever, but
Cheney's
college years. Basically, it's just kind of like watching the news over the last 20, 30 years. Like, I'm just kind of getting the facts of, like
that's fair.
I feel like, who are you making this for? And it's certainly not me, because you're just telling me the stuff that, like, I didn't learn anything other than, like, he was kind of a bungler when he was younger. Doesn't really help me. And that's my problem with bio stuff anyways. Like, I don't know who is it made for. Is it made... is this your Cliff Notes rather than, like, if you don't live through it, I mean, that's fine. You're born when you're born. But whatever you're watching it for, are you trying to gain the facts so that you can talk to other people about Dick Cheney or Freddie Mercury? Like, if you don't know these facts already, all they're giving you is the cutout hit moments of, like, and this is when Freddie Mercury decided to not use a microphone. And here's where Dick Cheney, and they even make that with, is this Dick Cheney's moment of, like, when he decided he was going to change the world? We will never know. Like, I mean, so it is all, as a movie, it's well put together and so self-aware that, I mean, it's a great film put together.
Well, and I also
just feel like I'm watching, like, a flashback of news from, like, my entire adult and childhood life, going like, yeah, I know, stop telling me.
Here's where I think that's a really good question to ask, is, like, what is this for? Is it Queen's greatest hits, which, you know, is a good album, or...
Because you never listen to the B-sides, which all kind of suck.
Yeah. I feel like this movie in particular, Adam McKay clearly had a point of view that he wanted to articulate, and was like, it's an angry movie, I think. But also, kind of, because this is, not to get too deep into politics, but the frustration of the recent years of, you know, incivility of the two warring factions, that whereas, like, we're all on the same team, or we should be, and we shouldn't be at each other's throats for these arbitrary divisions, of the rallying cry after Trump got elected that it was liberals' faults for not understanding how insecure working class white people were. And so I feel like this is, I mean, it's very much made in the Trump era to look back at this previous Republican presidency and vice presidency as an attempt to understand, like, what made him that way. And I don't know that the movie provides a satisfying answer, but I don't think that it has to. I think that's the asking the question was the important part.
There isn't really a satisfying answer, because we're stuck in what we were stuck in, and everyone's upset at whatever side
and
you're in.
He even says, the narrator says in one, he shows a conversation with Cheney and his wife Lynn at home, like, there's no way we could know if a conversation like this happened, but we can guess based on, like, what happened next. And so I feel like it's an attempt to understand someone whose actions you think are so reprehensible. Not with the goal of excusing them, but just to, like, expose that to the light of day.
Having him turn to the camera at the end and explain extemporaneously what we think he might have said that, like, I did it to protect your families. You're welcome.
Yeah. I mean, that was a bold choice.
It was.
And then the whole close-ups of when he's getting a heart transplant of, like, the empty hole where his heart was. Like, it was a little bit on the nose, but you're also like, yeah, man. So I thought it was, like, it's not a fun movie. That's not the right word. But I thought it was an interesting application of the biopic. Right. Whereas so many biopics, I think, are duds for the reasons that you've said.
Yeah. I mean, it really... How close are you to whatever... I mean, if you're watching it, like if somebody said, like, okay, tomorrow there's a Frank Zappa movie coming out, and it's the whoever.
Yeah.
There was rumors that John Turturro once was going to play him in a movie. Of course I'm going to go see it, but it's not going to tell me anything about Frank Zappa that I don't know.
Right.
So, in a biopic, like... I mean, are you trying... Is it the jumping point? And this isn't even, like, it's bad. Is it the jumping point or for you to go, like... Oh, what did happen in the Iraq War? I should go be interested in that, and I'm going to start watching the History Channel and check every YouTube video that I can find. Like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like, I don't really care about that. It's just weird in biopics. Like, it's never for the person who is a big fan of whatever the bio is. And and it's never actually enough information to really educate you. That's why it's not for the person who is the fan.
Well, and I would say, like, because movies, even in terms of, like, a written biography, it doesn't have the same scope. It has to choose one story to tell. And I think in the development of movies, dare I say it, executives can be lazy. And I think there's a certain kind of executive who sees biopic as, like, it's a pre-written story. Everybody knows and loves this person. Why wouldn't they want to know the facts of their life? The same thing
with the comic book problem, is that it's already there on the page. Just remake it.
Yeah, and that's
Doesn't work.
That's not how good stories are.